The Recharge.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Recharge. I'm Ruben Gonzalez and that's Matthew Stanley. And it is week 11. So without further ado, let's recharge. All right, Matthew, last week, Chargers did it again to us. They fell to the Jacksonville Jaguars 20-17, and they did it in fashion that we haven't seen before. We should have been prepared for it, though, right? I mean, they find out different ways to lose games, and this one in particular was one of those wacky endings again.
Yep, it's definitely new and exciting ways to lose every week. I don't think there's ever been more of a discouraging loss than this week.
Yeah.
To have the lead there in the final 2 minutes and have 2 interceptions in the final 2 minutes and still lose the game is pretty rough.
Yeah, I thought almost for sure after that first pick that hey, that's it. We've got this one in the bag, and then as we look down at our rundown, we'll figure out maybe what exactly was the reason why they lost in that one. They were able to take it into overtime, but they seemed doomed after those missed volleys at the end of the game, though. So let's start on the top. Was it Lambeau's revenge? Was it his destiny for this to happen?
Well, I think when you're considering the Chargers, yeah, it was probably destiny that Josh Lambeau was the doom of this team. I mean, a lot of us were shaking our heads when they released Lambeau at the end of training camp. And so I guess it's kind of, sweet justice for him to come back and kick not only the game-tying field goal, but then the game-winning field goal in overtime. I mean, I guess I'm happy for him because I still wish he was around. But, yeah, that was some sweet irony there.
Yeah. Well, there was a penalty at the end of the game, too, by Joey Bosa there. And some point at that penalty is kind of a momentum shift. It happened at the wrong time, and he knew it. It's the second penalty at the end of the game that you can almost attribute to losing the game for Bosa. He did that earlier a couple of games ago. This one in particular there was no need to do what he did, but
yeah.
Bosa is learning. I guess we got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah, it was a boneheaded play to toss Blake Bortles to the ground like that. When you do that, I mean, it didn't look malicious or anything. It kind of almost felt like more frustration. He still shouldn't have done it, though. The only place where I will give him, I guess, a little benefit of the doubt is the fact that they didn't call any penalty on what happened to Rivers at the beginning of the game when he got hit in the head and flipped upside down, and there was no flag on that. For them to not penalize that and then give Joey Bosa a flag for just kind of like forcefully dropping Blake Bortles to the ground, I thought that was pretty crap. But I mean, regardless, you just can't put yourself in that position. The ref is going to call that flag 9 times out of 10, and you just can't do that.
Yeah, kept the drive alive for the Jags. How about Eckler's error? We'll call it the fumble after the first interception. That was, like I said, I thought the game was sealed until Eckler fumbled the ball.
Yeah, that was really, really unfortunate timing. Austin Eckler, he was having a fantastic game up to that point, and it was really unfortunate for him to have dropped the ball there. I mean, he had to have known that there at the end of the game, the Jags defense is going to be desperate to get a turnover because they need a turnover to get the ball back and try and win, and so he probably could have been he should have been more careful with the ball there. But he's going to know that. I mean, he's an undrafted free agent rookie. He's going to make mistakes. That was one of many factors why the Chargers lost the game. But that definitely hurt to give the Jaguars that good a field position after that turnover.
Just bad timing, like you said. You shouldn't be fumbling it at all as it is. and it kind of was the topping, I guess you could say, to a fabulous day for him. But it wasn't the kind of topping that you want to eat. Kind of you want to flush down the toilet. Um, let's talk about the time management. The 2 minutes, the two interceptions. There's something wrong with the time management. Was it the play calling? They didn't try to get a first down. Was it? I mean, how do you have two interceptions under 2 minutes, and you can't run the clock out? I mean, we of
Yeah.
course want the fumble, but I mean, it just didn't seem like they wanted to secure the win. They just wanted to run some time off the clock and kick it to them and see what happens. That was the mentality I felt they had, and that's definitely not championship caliber thinking, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of question marks there at the end. The play calling was weird. They definitely didn't go for the throat. I felt like they sh- they didn't put themselves in position to win. Basically, I mean, Rivers took some shots downfield rather than going for sure first downs. I mean, we looked back at the tape, that deep pass to Travis Benjamin. Um, there was a deep pass to Travis Benjamin where Antonio Gates was wide open underneath it at the sticks for a first down. If Rivers would have just seen that, and then obviously you had the problem with getting the first downs running the game. I mean, Melvin Gordon was pretty much ineffective at that point, so they just put Austin Eckler in, and then they weren't helped by giving up a really good field position to the Jaguars. I mean, Austin Eckler's turnover gave him the ball on the Chargers' 42-yard line, and then on the Chargers 3-and-out after the first interception, the Chargers went 3-and-out, and Drew Kaiser just had really bad timing to have one of his worst punts of the game, and he only kicked the ball 42 yards and gave the Jaguars the ball back on their own 48-yard line with about a minute left to come down and tie the game. So it was a combination of things. I think there's plenty of blame to go around there at the end of the game. I mean, even though the defense made their good stops, you still question why Travis Benjamin didn't try to get more yards on that return. I mean, he took it for granted that, okay, this seals it, I can do whatever I want, and he just kind of showboated over to the sideline and pinned the Chargers deep. And so that's why Drew Kaiser wound up punting from his own 16-yard line. You just can't do that. There was plenty of blame to go around at the end of that game.
Yeah, it's been such a roller coaster season. We've had started with a low, and then they got that 3-game winning streak, went up. Now they seem to be going down again on that slope. Got us to have some thoughts of hope there for a little bit, but now are you down with the tank for sure?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'm ever really down with the tank. I mean,
yeah.
Sure, I put up a big front about being excited about, being able to scout the draft now, and it's always nice to not have that, like, impending cloud of doom. Like, it's almost a relief when the doom actually just happens, and you don't have to just keep putting it off and worrying about it. But being the Chargers fan that I am, I can't ever be satisfied with tanking. I always am going to enjoy a Chargers win. I'm not going to be upset at a Chargers win. It always feels good to win, and so, I mean, at this point, in my opinion, the playoffs are out of reach. I don't think the Chargers are a good enough team to get to the playoffs or do anything if they make the playoffs, because like we just talked about, the Chargers are basically consistently finding ways to lose rather than finding ways to win. So at this point, I'm saying the playoffs are out, but I mean, you never know. There is still some hope. They're only 2 games behind the Bills, and they're playing the Bills today. So I mean, this weekend. So stranger things have happened.
Yeah, it's almost almost with the record 3-6 now. It's almost like you're almost guaranteeing yourself for them, at best case scenario, to just fall a game out of the wild card chase. And that's the realization that I'm starting to believe in. I didn't want to believe that. I thought they had a chance, and they still technically do. But if you look at the the season as a whole, they haven't proved anything to us to think that they're going to turn this on the right track. So we have to kind of have that kind of gloom in the background. But
yep.
Oh well. Let's go. let's recharge because let's look forward to Sunday's game against the Bills. It's gonna be Coach Lynn's a little bit extra motivated for this game. He's going back to a team who he filled in at the end of the season for the fired coach. Had some somewhat success. He had the team, the locker room on his side, but he wasn't given the head coaching. I guess they didn't give him the job in the offseason. He ends up coming to the Chargers. He's our coach now, and is he? You think he's motivated? He's trying not to talk it up too much, but I'm sure there's a part of him that really, really, really wants this win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely sure that he has some special motivation going to this game. I mean, you always want to go prove like, hey, you guys, like, look what you missed out on. You guys could have had me. Um, and not only that, but I think he really respects the players on the Bills. He obviously formed a lot of great relationships over there, and so he wants to go. He wants to go out there and show them that they were right in having faith in him while he was there. And it's kind of nice that he's the Chargers coach now, because they obviously are going into this game with some familiarity with the personnel over there. May not be scheme familiarity, but definitely he's going to know the players. He's going to know their tendencies. And yeah, it's definitely a special game for him.
Perhaps, um, Coach Coach McDermott, excuse me. Maybe that's why he's not starting Tyrod Taylor this week. We'll get to him in a bit, but maybe that's why his familiarity with Coach Lynn. Maybe that's gamemanship there. I don't know. We'll see if Tyrod ends up having to come into the ball game. But speaking of quarterbacks, the Chargers have a quarterback, and he's in the concussion protocol. They say he practiced full today, which is Thursday, but still in limbo playing. Are you prepared to have this Rivers streak of consecutive games started snapped?
That's going to be a huge bummer if he can't go. Like you just said, he practiced limited yesterday. He was full today, which was actually a fully padded practice. And so basically at this point the team is saying that he's good to go, but they're basically waiting on that doctor to sign off and say he's good to be out of the protocol. But that would be a real bummer if Rivers snaps that streak at this point. He's got the second longest active streak among quarterbacks, second to only Eli Manning. I think he's at 185 games.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, he's played through worse injuries, in my opinion. I mean, he played that playoff game with a torn ACL.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, it's with today's safety rules. If the doctor says no, it all comes down to that independent specialist. So, if he can't go, it's going to be a really interesting game to see rookie Nathan Peterman versus either Kellen Clemens or Cardale Jones.
That's the next item on the rundown. Who do you prefer, Clemens or Cardale?
So, in my opinion, I think it's a waste to start Kellen Clemens. You can't make the argument to me that Kellen Clemens gives you that much more of a chance to win over Cardale Jones. So why not throw Cardale Jones out there and see what you have? You haven't seen him in game action against any ones. You've only seen him in the preseason against twos and mostly threes. And his contract, when I was looking at his contract, I'm pretty sure they can get out of his contract after this season without taking any dead cap space. So why not throw him out there and see what you have? Is this a guy you're going to want to keep around as your backup quarterback? Is this a guy who, if Rivers retires, you could have a legitimate competition between Cardale Jones and a rookie that you draft? Or is he just another guy? So to me, I think you throw Cardale Jones out there regardless. But if the team decides to go with Kellen Clemens, I think that says a lot about how they feel about Cardale Jones. And if Clemens gets the start, that's the team basically saying Cardale's not the answer to any question that we have on offense, and he's just a guy.
I don't know if at any point in the season, you could probably correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I don't think Cardale was active with Clemens being the one that was not active on game day.
I don't think so.
That tells you something as well, because he was never going to be the next guy at that point.
Well, I think that's a slightly different scenario. I think Kellen Clemens is the guy that you would want to come in after an injury, but in this unique scenario of starting and playing a full game, I think Cardale Jones is who you want because you want to see what you have in him. You know what you have in Kellen Clemens. You don't want a question mark filling in halfway through a game, but if it's going to be for a whole game that you're probably not going to win anyway at that point, throw in the question mark and see what you have.
I think it comes down to the record that the Chargers find themselves in, actually. I think it's because they're 3-6, and they technically have a chance to make a playoff run here. And so they just want to make sure they can have just a solid game. Nothing spectacular. They don't want to test Cardale in this game. If they were 3-9, I almost guarantee you Cardale started. I think that's probably the thinking. They're not ready to kind of throw him in there and check and see, maybe just lose the game because of checking, and ultimately that would be the end of the season as well at 3-7. But I don't know. I think we're both kind of right. I think we both know, and I think that's the problem without having a number 2 backup that you feel confident in. I think that's what happens in instances like this. Hopefully, Phillip Rivers is back under center on Sunday. We talked about Tyrod Taylor being benched. Is it a big deal? I think it's better chances for the Chargers. Let's just move on from that because we already talked about them. Talk about the 3 matchups you're interested, or at least some of the ones you're waiting to see this week.
So I want to see how Melvin Gordon runs against this defense. The Bills' defense has completely imploded against the run after they traded Marcel Darius. 2 weeks ago, they gave up 194 yards on the ground to the Jets. And then last week against the Saints, they gave up 298 yards and 6 rushing touchdowns. And so I made the point earlier in the week on one of my podcasts that I think Melvin Gordon has a big confidence problem right now. And so this game comes at a perfect time for Melvin Gordon to go out there and have a big game, get some confidence back against a really bad rushing defense. I'm also interested to see whoever starts at quarterback for the Chargers versus the Bills secondary. The Bills are tied for 3rd place in the league with 11 interceptions, and that's just what their defense is made of. Like, when I was looking at the stats today, they don't do anything better than about average across all the stat categories except turnovers. They're at a plus 11 overall for the year. They've had 11 interceptions and they forced 19 fumbles. So they're just really, really good at forcing turnovers. And so it'll be really interesting to see if the Chargers quarterback can keep things under wraps. And then the final matchup I'd like to see is the Chargers pass rush versus the Bills offensive line. Tyrod Taylor, while he was in, he got sacked a lot. I think he had been sacked 28 times already this year. And the Bills actually have their backup left tackle right now is slated to start because Cordy Glenn has been injured. He didn't play last week, and he hasn't practiced yet this week. So Deion Dawkins is slated to start left tackle. But Deion Dawkins gave up 0 pressures last week. So it'll be interesting to see if the Chargers' defensive line, especially those edge guys, can keep up the amount of pass rush they've had and hopefully force a rookie Nathan Peterman to make some mistakes.
Oh yeah, that's what should happen.
Yeah,
we'll see. The one matchup I'm looking forward to, and you know what, I think Keenan Allen needs a breakout game. He hasn't really had it. He's kind of been quiet, I would say. I think he only has 1 touchdown on the season. I want him to break out. It's probably going to be matched up with the rookie Tre'Davious White. A lot of people say he's a real deal. He has the stats to prove it. So that's the matchup that we're going to probably see. Of course, they line up Keenan everywhere, so he should be able to put something up on his team. That's, of course, if Phillip Rivers is playing. Can't hope anything else besides that. Okay, so let's get your Bills prediction. I believe this is going to be a win, Matthew. What you think?
I think this is a game the Chargers win, especially if Phillip Rivers is playing. I think if Rivers is playing, I think this game is 24-13 Chargers. I don't see the Bills really stopping the Chargers all that much on defense when they're on defense, and I think that the Chargers defense will be able to minimize the damage against the run, especially with Denzel Perryman back, and force Nathan Peterman to throw the ball and make some mistakes. If Rivers doesn't play, I think the Chargers might probably still win, but it's a lot closer, probably more like 17-13. But yeah, I think the Chargers win this week.
I think the Chargers win. They don't score more than 21 points. They're not going to win this game. I don't think they won a game scoring under 21 points, so they have to get to the 21-point mark. So I'm going to say 21-10 this Sunday. So they're going to win. We need to win.
Yep.
We need to be happy again. It's been a like I said, a roller coaster season, and we've been through these a little too often. So let's get Coach Lynn. Let's get him happy this week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this edition of The Recharge. I want to thank Nathan out there for putting this together behind the scenes. If you haven't catched it yet, Locked On Chargers, hosted by Matthew Stanley here. Catch him on BFTB. That'll be one of the links. If you follow him on Twitter, you're already accustomed to that. So that's going to do it for this week. We'll see you for Week 12, hopefully after a Chargers win. Bye-bye, guys.